Hi, Dheeya. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Shruti. It's a pleasure, and it's always good to connect with you. Although it's been a while, but it's always great to chat with you.
That's great. So, for everybody, Dheeya is a former Columbia University student, and now she is working in India. After working in New York, she's working in India as an art advisor with the Delhi Art Gallery in the Mumbai space. So, Dheeya, I wanted to ask you, what is an art advisor?
Sure. So, like I mentioned to you while we were chatting, that an art advisor essentially is for someone who has even a little bit of a or a slight inclination towards art, but does not know where to begin, right? So you could be think of it as someone who is passionate about sneakers, someone who is passionate about maybe fashion, clothes, right? But you don't know exactly where to start, and you need someone to sort of talk to a little bit, someone who has expertise in the field to guide you and advise you as to what direction to go into. And it could be South Asian art, it could be, international art, it could be art from any nook and corner in the world. People who look at art as if they have an empty space on their wall in their home and they want to fill up that space, and they have some sort of an idea, that okay, we like abstract art, or we like figurative art with figures, human figures or animal figures, and then the color and texture. So they give you a little bit of their briefing, and then that's where you start the conversation.
Oh, that's great. And you worked in New York and now you're in India. So, how different is it, and what do you think you can bring from there to India now?
So I think the good thing about this field is that it's quite global. It's quite international. So a lot of the artists that I'm now about to work with in India, I have met them and seen them at a lot of these art fairs, a lot of these biennials, which happen, sometimes either in India, in New York, in Venice, all of these places. So there's a huge crossover between the artists. So I would just say that yes, it's going to be extremely different, but also similar in a lot of ways, working in India and within this industry and this space.
Okay, okay, that's great. And so, did you have a digital presence even before COVID hit?
I mean, I had a personal page. Yes, I had my own like personal page, which I still have, and I post. But I did not have a page dedicated to art only. That I did not have.
Okay, and you did that
And
like post COVID, during COVID.
right. I did that during COVID, only because, I started to see how there is a community on the internet. There are so many art curators, there are bloggers, there are exhibition planners, and they keep sharing, right?
Exactly.
So, and before COVID, when I didn't tap into how closely connected or how big this community is, I did not really think of it. So it was during this COVID time when I actually started connecting with these people, and that's pushed me to have my own page.
Oh, great. So, basically, this digital platform has helped you connect with a lot of people. So, you would say that for art, probably
Absolutely.
that's the main thing, that people need to just be able to know this is what it is and be able to show it.
Yes, I was definitely able to connect with, during the lockdown when nobody could travel, no flights, no nothing. And it just felt so great because I was able to connect to people who are sharing these, museum shows or gallery shows from France or Italy, and seeing the kind of works that these museums have there. And then in your head, you tend to draw connections. And then the connections actually do start forming in your head. So 100%, through this page, I have now been able to connect to so many like-minded people, and that's the fun part. That is the best part.
So, basically, work did not stop really.
No, work definitely did not stop. No,
That's
uh,
great.
in fact, yeah, in fact, for the art world, it's obviously heavily um, we in the art world we tend to really rely on people to actually come and see the works, see the painting, right? If you just show images or pictures to people before COVID, it didn't really cut it. Like people were not really convinced they would want to come actually see the works. But during COVID and a little bit post COVID, especially in the Western countries where the cases have subsided, there has been a shift in the art industry, which we all have noticed and seen. That a lot of the galleries and museums have now become digital, and they were not before
Oh,
COVID.
really? So before you would say it wasn't that important to have a digital presence, and now after COVID hit, it's very important. Everybody needs to be everywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, art as an industry has been, it was kind of lagging behind when it came to tech.
Mhm.
Because, like I said, art is more about your experiences and you coming in the space and actually experiencing the artwork in itself. So, the pandemic really pushed sort of every leg of the industry to go digital. And and people were very creative. People were very creative.
Really. What have you seen that has been the most creative form of digital presence that you've seen in the art world?
So I would definitely say that there's this thing called the online viewing room. So where a person can actually step in, and there are these 3D models where you have like artworks hung on the walls, and a person can walk through and walk around and almost try to get that experience of going to a museum or a gallery, but online. And nobody really used to have this before. If people were to, maybe if they wanted to see the work, if there's an artwork hung in New York, they would have to fly down to New York to see it, and people have done it. People do that. Whereas now people were able to just walk through an exhibition while sitting in their homes.
That's amazing. So you think this is going to be like a permanent thing that's going to happen even in future? They would drop down the spaces that they have, maybe?
um, that actually has already started to happen. So, for instance, if there's a mega gallery which has 5 spaces in different countries, just because of the fact that they were able to go digital, they have maybe cut down on 1 or 2 spaces and then stuck to their main sort of headquarters.
Mm.
So we have seen that happen, absolutely, yes. And I think this is here to stay. Sure, I mean, we value people coming in, seeing the work in itself, and people enjoy doing that all the time. But these online viewing rooms and online shows, they're here to stay, 100%.
It's actually been a great change. You have actually taken this whole challenge into this beautiful format and changed it. Like the art world has definitely flourished, I would say, after this whole thing.
Yeah, I think it was a change that needed to happen anyway, right? It just it accelerated the timeline for this shift to happen. I mean, it had to happen at some point, but then COVID just sort of pushed it even further.
So, according to you, what do you think is the best format in the digital space to showcase art?
Right. So art it's a very visual industry to begin with, right? Like I think the works can be so stunning, so beautiful, so colorful. So the more exposure in terms of maybe videos or just even um standing in front of a painting or a picture and talking about it, doing Instagram lives. And I know so many people who've done that. Like they've just gone and, in front of a painting just because there were so many people who couldn't actually make it to those exhibitions and those shows. They would stand in front of it and then just do like an Instagram live, perhaps. Facebook also, for that matter, again, because it's visual. Um, I'm not sure about a channel like TikTok, perhaps, because
I was
that's
going to
that's
ask
more
that.
like short. Right, right. It's more they're short and they're very funky and nice videos. But I think art people tend to take art a little more seriously. So I would just stick perhaps maybe to Instagram and Facebook.
So, basically, your favorite social media channel would probably be Instagram.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Instagram, because it gives you, there's so many options now. You have that IGTV, you now have Reels, you have so much to do with it. The Instagram live, I mean, it did so well during the pandemic, as I'm sure you know, and people who are listening to this or would listen to this, they would know that Instagram live and Zoom, it was great.
Definitely helped. Yeah, that's been great. Dheeya, what do you think should be the main focus for an art advisor or an artist when they're posting or they're actually interacting with people? What do you think that they should actually focus on for their digital image?
Right. So I think there are two things when it comes to this question. One is, of course, the stories. The story or the narrative behind a piece, and that's very, very important, because as much as you can connect with people, I think that's the magic trick, right? And you have no idea what story might connect to who, sitting in what part of the world. So stories and narratives are extremely important. And then the second, I would say, which is very important in art, is how relevant is, whatever you're sharing, what is the relevance of it in the current times. So I think the greatest example that I could give you is the Black Lives Matter movement, which was taking place in New York. And it was world news that, there were all these hoardings in Fifth Avenue and Soho, where all the stores were covered in like these wooden boards. And a lot of these Black artists just went and did graffiti works and painted there, just to give out their message, a very, very strong message, to the world. So sharing that, or just even, being around there, giving that, adding more momentum to that, I think that's relevant. And a lot of people in the art industry did
That's
that.
amazing. So that
So
means
yeah.
experiences are probably better than even just sharing any artwork that you're just going. Share the experience, because that's what they say. This is what I hear all the time. You have to feel art. That's when
Right.
you like something. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you were seeing all these messages on those boards, you could feel it. You could feel all these communities, these marginalized communities, what they go through. And then, the whole George Floyd thing that had happened. And I think something similar to that in India was the JNU protests, right?
Mhm.
I have heard that there was like this entire street where people would come at night and make these paintings, or they would paint in Delhi when that was happening. So that was also a very, very strong way of putting a message across in a peaceful manner.
Yeah.
So art can be anything.
Art is everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, how important do you think having a digital presence can help you get leads for like getting customers? Does that happen?
Yes, that definitely happens. It has happened with me. Yes. So for instance, I think people who start following you, they end up knowing a little bit about your taste, right? And then you attract more of those people on your page. And then once you create that strong community, like, you just start, even talking to them sometimes, or they reach out to you, being like, oh, like, you shared this piece, you were at this exhibition, and this person is sitting across somewhere else and has no access to it, and you're the middle person who's sharing images and videos of that piece.
Exactly.
So that's definitely happened.
Oh, that's great then. So that means it's definitely very important. It's here to stay, and it's going to stay for a very long time. This has been great.
I hope so.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
amazing. Thank you so much, Dheeya. Thank you so much. It's been great.